When you finally stop reaching for someone who keeps pulling away, something profound happens in the dynamic. Most people don't realize this, but for someone with an avoidant attachment style, intimacy often feels like a trap. The moment they sense closeness tightening around them, their instinct isn't to move forward. It's to retreat. Not because they don't care, but because care feels overwhelming. They equate emotional closeness with the risk of losing themselves. And here's where most people make the critical mistake they chase. They try to prove their worth, to explain, to reassure, to bridge the gap with effort. But all of that effort only confirms the avoidance fear. That connection will consume them. The paradox is that the very thing that draws them back is not pursuit but space. Detachment interrupts their pattern. It breaks the predictable cycle of closeness and retreat. When you stop reaching, you no longer play the role they expect. Your silence becomes unfamiliar, and in that unfamiliarity, their nervous system begins to settle. What once felt suffocating now feels safe, and in that safety, curiosity awakens. They start to wonder what you're doing, who you're becoming, and why the gravitational pull they once took for granted has disappeared. This isn't about manipulation, it's about reclaiming your center. When you detach, not coldly, not with resentment, but with self-respect, you send a powerful subconscious message. I am whole without you. And that message disarms the avoidance defenses like nothing else can. Because underneath their armor, they long for connection too. They just fear the cost of it. When they sense you no longer pose that threat, when they see you living freely, not waiting, they begin to inch back toward the very closeness they once resisted. Think about the nature of human desire. We don't crave what we feel entitled to. We crave what could be lost. When you were always available, always explaining, always ready to close the gap, they never had to feel the absence of you. But when you step back, they experience what philosophers call the hunger of the soul, the sudden awareness of something precious that might no longer be theirs. That absence creates contrast, and contrast creates value. Your presence becomes meaningful again precisely because it's no longer guaranteed. This is why detachment is not a game. It's a shift in energy. It moves you from grasping to grounded, from proven to being. And that shift is magnetic. It's not about ignoring them or pretending you don't care. It's about releasing the emotional leash. You stop orbiting their moods. You stop contorting to fit their comfort zone. And in that release, something incredible happens. They feel safe enough to come closer, because closeness no longer threatens to engulf them. Understand this deeply. Avoidants don't come back because you chased harder. They come back because you stop needing them to. And the moment you stop needing them, you stop fearing their distance. You stop defining your worth by their response. And ironically, that's the exact moment they start to question their distance. So if you want to break the cycle, let go of the chase. Step back with quiet strength. Because when your absence speaks louder than your words ever could, their fear of being consumed transforms into the fear of losing you. And that's when they come back, not out of obligation, but out of desire. If there's one thing that draws an avoidant person back more powerfully than anything else, it's the quiet pull of emotional consistency. Most people underestimate how magnetic stability really is. They think passion is about fireworks, drama, and intensity. But for someone who lives in constant internal chaos, someone who carries the fear that intimacy will hurt them, what's truly irresistible is the opposite of chaos. It's calm, it's groundedness, it's your ability to remain steady no matter what emotional storm they try to create or escape from. See, an avoidant isn't repelled by love itself, they're repelled by the unpredictability they've come to associate with closeness. They expect that if they get too close, they'll be trapped in someone else's emotional waves. Waves that will swallow them if they let their guard down. And so, when they sense emotional volatility, they instinctively pull away. They've been conditioned to equate love with danger. But when they encounter someone who doesn't flinch, who doesn't spiral, who doesn't try to control their distance or punish their detachment, that disarms them. It confuses their nervous system. It's like standing in the eye of a hurricane and finding stillness instead of chaos. That's what makes emotional consistency so powerful. It creates a safe contrast. You become the one place where they don't have to brace for impact. Instead of trying to regulate you, they start to relax around you. And that relaxation is what allows curiosity and eventually desire to reemerge. This is where most people get it backwards. They think to win the avoidant back, they need to show passion, urgency, or some dramatic declaration. But what the avoidant craves without even realizing is the feeling of being near someone who doesn't make emotional demands, someone who radiates calm, someone who can love without needing to control. This is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's about emotional mastery. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in your own self-worth that their swings don't pull you off center. When they pull back, you don't chase. When they return, you don't cling. You respond with the same steady energy, the same emotional tone, whether they're near or far. And in that steadiness, they find something they've never truly trusted before: safety without suffocation. Think of it like this. If detachment creates the space for them to miss you, consistency creates the gravity that pulls them back in. It's the difference between being a spark that flares up and burns out and being a steady flame that never wavers. And when someone has lived their whole life expecting flames to burn them, finding one that simply warms them becomes irresistible. The truth is, emotional consistency isn't just attractive, it's liberating. It frees both you and them from the exhausting cycle of push and pull. It stops being about who's winning, who's chasing, or who's running. It becomes about presence, about peace. And when you embody that peace, you stop being part of their chaos and start being the escape from it. So don't underestimate how powerful your calm truly is. Because when you become the one person who can stand steady in the storm they carry inside, you stop being just another source of fear and start becoming the only place they feel safe enough to come home to. Separation, though painful, is also a stage of extraordinary leverage if you use it well. Most people waste this space by staying emotionally frozen, replaying every memory, waiting for a sign that the avoidant will return. They sit in the role of the pursuer, hoping their absence will be noticed enough to trigger a comeback. But what they don't realize is that this passive waiting only reinforces the dynamic that drove the avoidant away in the first place. It says, I'm still orbiting you. I haven't changed. I'll be here when you're ready. And to an avoidant, that confirms there's no risk in staying gone because nothing on your side is evolving. But when you use separation to grow, to genuinely transform, you disrupt that narrative entirely. You stop existing as the version of yourself they left behind. You stop being predictable. And unpredictability, when it's rooted in growth, is electrifying to someone who fears being trapped in old emotional cycles. When the avoidant realizes the person they left isn't the same person they'd be coming back to, they're forced to reassess everything they believed about you. Suddenly, you're not the familiar pattern they could manage from a distance. You're something new. And the mind is drawn to what feels new. Growth shifts the power dynamic because it moves you from dependence to sovereignty. Instead of trying to prove your worth to them, you embody it for yourself. You become someone who doesn't need to be chosen in order to feel valuable. And that energy is magnetic. People with avoidant tendencies are hypersensitive to pressure. They pull away the moment they sense they're being emotionally cornered. But they are equally drawn to strength, not aggression, not pride. Strength, the kind that radiates quietly without performance. The kind that says, I am whole with or without you. This doesn't mean becoming hard or cold. It means becoming expansive. It means deepening your emotional intelligence, cultivating new passions, surrounding yourself with people who challenge and inspire you, elevating your physical and mental state. Every time you invest in your own growth, you raise your energetic frequency, and they feel that, even from a distance. They can sense that the gravitational pull has shifted. You're no longer anchored in the past. You've stepped into your future. And that's when something fascinating happens. Their absence starts to work against them. The same distance that once made them feel safe now makes them feel left behind. They begin to wonder if they still have access to you, if they even still fit into the new world you're building. That uncertainty creates tension. And that tension is often what compels them to return, not to the old version of you, but to discover the person you've become. This is why separation isn't the end of the story. It's the turning point. It's where you stop being a character in their narrative and start becoming the author of your own. Because when they sense that you are evolving beyond them, not waiting beneath them, it redefines the entire dynamic. They no longer hold the power to decide your value. Certainty is one of the most magnetic forces in human relationships, and when you embody it, everything shifts. Most people operate from a place of fear. Fear that the person won't come back, fear that they'll miss their chance, fear that they'll lose something they believe they need. And fear drives chasing. Fear drives over-explaining. Fear drives the anxious spiral that convinces the avoidant they were right to pull away in the first place. But the moment you drop that fear, when you move from scarcity to certainty, you reclaim the power that was never really theirs to begin with. Assuming they will come back isn't about ego or arrogance. It's about moving out of the energy of desperation. It's saying, I trust my value. I trust the connection we had. And I trust life enough to know that if it's meant to return, it will. That certainty is incredibly attractive because it signals to the avoidant that you are not clinging, not panicking, not attempting to control the outcome. And for someone who fears being controlled, that is the single most freeing energy you can project. When you operate from certainty, your actions look completely different. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop posting cryptic messages hoping they'll notice. You stop obsessing over whether they're thinking of you. Instead, you invest in your own momentum. You build, you create, you live. And this doesn't just change your life. It changes the way they experience you. Instead of being the person who waits, you become the person who moves. Instead of being the one who shrinks in their absence, you expand. And that expansion is what makes them feel the difference between losing you and simply taking a break from you. There's also a deeper psychological layer here. When you stop fearing their distance, you stop participating in the very cycle that gives them control. Avoidants often test unconsciously. What happens if I pull away? Will you panic? Will you chase? Will you prove my belief that closeness equals pressure? But when you meet that distance with calm, when you meet it with grounded certainty, the test fails, you break the cycle. And the moment the cycle breaks, the relationship dynamic resets. Philosophically, this is the shift from needing to having. Needing says, I am not whole until you return. Having says, I am whole whether you return or not. And here's the paradox: the moment you no longer need them to come back, that is often the exact moment they feel safe enough to do so. Because they're not walking back into a trap. They're walking towards someone who is free. This mindset doesn't just change your relationship, it changes you. It dissolves the fear that keeps you small. It invites you to trust life, to trust timing, to trust that what's truly meant for you can't be taken from you. And that level of trust is contagious. It allows you to lead not with control, but with certainty. So assume they will come back, not because you're entitled to it, but because it frees you from the grip of fear. And if they do, you meet them as an equal. And if they don't, you've already become the person who no longer needs them to complete you. That is ultimate freedom. And freedom is always more powerful than fear.